They found the maintenance cart 3 days later. It was still sitting on the rails, lights blinking like tired eyes. The tools were neatly stacked as if someone had tried to be polite on the way out. And on the tunnel wall, scraped into the concrete with something hard enough to bite stone, there were only 3 words. Don't make noise. The city reopened the line anyway, because in a city like this, the trains always run, even when something underneath learns the schedule. They called it Tunnel 12B on the maps. Transit workers called it the soft tunnel, because the walls didn't echo right. The overnight maintenance crew was small by design. 4 workers, 1 supervisor, a 6-hour maintenance window before the first morning train screamed back to life. This wasn't a job for heroes. It was a job for people who needed the hours. Dale Mercer was a supervisor, mid-40s, calm voice, the kind of man who believed most problems could be solved by following procedure and keeping people focused. Rena Cho handled signal and cable systems. Quiet, observant, she listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, people tended to stop talking. Marco Alvarez was the welder, big shoulders, louder laugh, always joking when the dark felt too close. He believed fear worked like a bully, laugh at it and it backed off. And Eli Brooks, the new guy, 22, first year underground, trying very hard not to look like it. And then there was Gus Hargrove, the cart operator, old enough that no one asked how long he'd been working the tunnels. He didn't talk much. When he did, it was usually something short that landed heavy. They met at the maintenance gate just after midnight. Steam curled up from the street gates like the city was breathing in its sleep. Dale checked his clipboard. 6 hours. Cable repair, wall inspection, then out. Nobody wanders, nobody improvises. Eli nodded too quickly. Marco leaned over and said, "Rule 1, kid. If you see a ghost, you charge it rent." Rena didn't smile. She was watching the tunnel entrance. Gus climbed onto the maintenance cart and turned the key. The lights came on, and then the tunnel swallowed them. The first stretch felt normal. Concrete walls, steel rails, dust and metal in the air. Their footsteps echoed, mostly. Then something changed. Not suddenly, just enough that your brain noticed before it understood. Their voices didn't carry the way they should have. The tunnel didn't throw sound back at them. It absorbed it. Marco snapped his fingers. The sound landed wrong, like snapping into fabric. "That's weird," he said. "Feels damp." Dale shrugged. Old seepage. Rena ran her light along the wall. The beam caught grooves in the concrete, parallel channels running waist-high along the tunnel. Too smooth to be cracks, too deliberate to be damage. Rena stopped. "Something's been rubbing here. A lot." Eli leaned closer. "Like scraping?" "Like something passing through," Rena said. They continued deeper. The damaged cable box came into view, and Rena opened it. Inside, the insulation was shredded, copper stripped clean. Some of it had been packed into the nearby alcove like nesting material. Rena frowned. This wasn't age. Dale studied the bite marks. Animals don't usually do work this neat. Then, somewhere ahead of them, something made a sound. Not a drip, not a scrape. A low rhythmic chitter. The tunnel carried it perfectly. Eli whispered, "Did you hear that?" Marco opened his mouth. Nothing came out. They kept working, because stopping meant thinking. Rena rerouted the cable. Marco welded. Dale checked the wall seams, and Gus stayed at the cart, head tilted slightly, listening. The lights flickered, just once. Rena froze. That shouldn't happen. Before Dale could respond, Eli stopped feeding cable. There's something down there. Rena swung her light forward. At first it looked like debris, then it stepped into the edge of the beam. A rodent. But calling it that felt wrong. It stood nearly chest high on its hind legs. Its fur was patchy and scarred. Its eyes reflected the light like dull coins. Its teeth were long, curved, and dark. It didn't rush them. It sniffed the air, and then it chittered again. And deeper in the tunnel, something answered, and then something else. Dale's voice went flat. Back to the cart, now. Marco stepped back. The creature stepped forward, not charging, positioning, guiding. Fear makes patterns, and in that moment, 3 things became clear. First, the tunnel swallowed their sound, but not the creature's. Second, the creature didn't attack. They heard it. And third, they reacted to sound. Because when Eli's breathing got loud, the creature's head turned toward him instantly. Rena whispered, barely moving her lips, "Eli, slow." He tried. The tunnel shifted behind them. Shapes moved along the walls, blocking the way back. Marco whispered, "There's more of them." Dale made the call. Forward, service ladder at the turnaround bay. Marco hesitated. "That's deeper." Dale nodded. "And behind us is closed." The creature chittered softly, almost approving. They walked, not ran. Running made noise. The creatures paced them, appearing ahead, sliding behind, closing lanes. Every sharp breath made them adjust. Eli started to panic. Rena grabbed his sleeve hard. They passed shredded insulation, broken boxes, gouged concrete. Then the tunnel widened. The turnaround bay. Their lights fell on the floor. Debris, tools, helmets, bones. Human bones. Rena's light caught a torn vest, a name patch. Hargrove. She looked at Gus. Gus looked tired. "That was my brother," he said. The chittering grew closer. "They've been here a long time," Gus said quietly. "Longer than the city wants to admit." Dale asked, "Why isn't this sealed?" Gus gave a humorless laugh. "It was. And then they needed it again." Eli's breath hitched. One of the creatures clicked its teeth. Gus continued, "You don't fight them. You don't chase them. You don't breathe loud when they're listening." And something heavy shifted behind them. Dale said, "Ladder, now." They crossed the bay. Halfway across, Eli tripped. He gasped. The reaction was immediate. 2 creatures surged forward, cutting him off. Eli ran straight into an alcove. The chittering rose. A thump. A scrape. Silence. Rena stared. Marco moved to follow. Dale grabbed him. "No." Gus whispered, "That's the nest." They moved, because stopping meant joining him. The service ladder was bolted into the far wall. Dale climbed, then Marco, then Rena. Gus hesitated. Below them, the bay shifted. One creature leapt onto the ladder, climbing. Marco fired his torch. It recoiled, annoyed, not afraid. Dale hooked it with a maintenance tool. It dropped. More chittering answered. They ran the catwalk. The emergency hatch resisted, then opened. Cold air spilled out. They piled in. The hatch slammed shut as something hit it from below. The lock held. The chittering faded. Not gone. Just distant. They surfaced in a service room that smelled like dust and disinfectant. Marco punched the wall. Marina sat down shaking. Dale said, "We report it." Gus shook his head. "They'll just erase it." Through the floor, faint but steady, something vibrated. A sound like counting. Daylight didn't fix anything. It just made the memories sharper. They sat in the windowless transit office while a man in a clean jacket asked questions he already had the answers for. "How many animals did you see? Were there any signs of structural collapse? Was anyone under the influence?" Dale answered carefully. Rena answered minimally. Marco stopped answering altogether. When Dale mentioned Eli, the man paused, tapped his pen once, and said, "We'll list him as missing pending investigation." Gus didn't say a word. When Dale brought up the grooves, the nests, the bones, the man nodded like he'd heard it all before, because he had. "We'll seal Tunnel 12B, the man said, "effective immediately." Dale asked, "Permanently?" The man smiled without warmth. "As permanently as anything in this city." Dale didn't sleep. Neither did Rena. Marco drank until the shaking in his hands stopped. And Gus went back underground. Not to Tunnel 12B, to a different line, a different shift, a place where the walls echoed normally. He was checking a pressure valve when he heard it. Not loud, not close. A familiar low chitter vibrating faintly through the metal under his boots. He froze, held his breath. The sound faded, and Gus exhaled slowly. Then he noticed something else. Fresh grooves, parallel, waist high. Not on the tunnel wall, on the support column. The official story said Tunnel 12B was sealed due to structural instability. The unofficial story spread among maintenance crews faster. Don't volunteer for sealed spurs. Don't trust clean maps. And never, ever ignore breathing in the dark. Rena started researching old maintenance logs. She found gaps. Entire crews reassigned. Incident reports missing attachments. Maps redrawn without explanation. Tunnel 12B wasn't unique. It was just the one that failed containment. The creatures didn't belong to one tunnel. They belonged to the system. Dale visited Gus 2 weeks later. Gus looked older. "I didn't tell you everything," Gus said. Dale nodded. "I figured." Gus stared at his hands. "They don't kill us unless they need to. Most of the time, they keep people." Dale's throat tightened. "For what?" Gus shook his head. "Learning." The city changes, schedules change, routes shift. The creatures adapted by listening. Breath told them panic. Panic told them weakness. Weakness told them who to keep. "They're not animals," Gus said. "They're maintenance." 3 months later, a night train stalled 2 stations over from Tunnel 12B. Passengers complained about vibration. Operators blamed old rails. One conductor swore he heard something beneath the car. A sound like teeth clicking slowly. Maintenance was scheduled. then quietly canceled. The train ran again. Because sometimes the safest decision is pretending you didn't hear anything at all. Cities don't sleep. They listen. Every footstep above teaches the dark below something new. The creatures learned shift changes, they learned alarms, they learned which hatches open fastest. And somewhere under the city, in places not marked on any public map, nests grew. Not messy, organized, woven with reflective tape and insulation and names stitched into fabric. They weren't waiting for accidents anymore. They were waiting for maintenance windows. They found the maintenance cart 3 days after the canceled job. Wrong tunnel, wrong line, same signs. Lights blinking, tools stacked neatly. And carved into the concrete with something strong enough to bite stone, there were 3 words. Don't make noise. This time, the city didn't reopen the line. It rerouted it. Because whatever lives beneath the city doesn't need every tunnel. Just enough. And late at night, when the trains pass over sealed sections, some conductors swear they feel it. A subtle correction, like something below is guiding the rails, making sure everything stays on schedule. If you ever hear something chitter under your feet at night, don't panic, don't run. Just breathe slow, because it might already know you're there. If this story made you uneasy about what might be moving beneath your city, then it did its job. If you enjoyed it, take a second to like the video and subscribe for more stories meant to be heard in the dark. Until next time, breathe slow, because you never know who might be listening. Good night.